All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to interview someone from the entertainment world because again we're looking at all the different arms of business in our culture today. So we're going to talk to Leilani Turner, who is a producer and actress. She's known for films like Very Frightening Tales, starring in an episode along with Sally Struthers. She's also known for producing Reed's Point in 2022 and the film Scars that came out in 2023. She works with another independent film producer well known in Hollywood. And she also helped produce Middletown Christmas, which was honored with a Dove Award and saw the big release in 2020. She also has many other projects in the queue, so stay tuned. And help me welcome Leilani Turner to the show today. Thank you. Leilani, can you tell us how did you, a little bit about yourself? How did you get into the entertainment world? How where you were raised, and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I was pretty much born and raised here in Southern California. My mother was actually a nurse administrator, and my father was an engineer at both Boeing and Hughes Helicopters. So both of them, were very big on integrity and making sure we always did the right thing in the household. And so I think that's one of the things I've always carried on. And so what led me into the entertainment industry world, I guess you can say, is pretty much was kind of on a whim. After working in healthcare for maybe about 20 years at that time, I got, not to say bored, but I was looking for something a little bit different. And so that pretty much led me to answering an ad on LA Casting, where they were looking for an event coordinator and also a host for different, red carpet events and various, charity events, which I thought naturally that's right up my alley since that's a lot of what I did at the hospital. And so I interviewed for the position. I actually got the position. And so in working with a publicist, that actually then led me to meeting an independent film producer by the name of Suzanne De Laurentiis. And so after meeting Suzanne, and after building that relationship, her and I actually built a really good partnership. And so since 2011, I pretty much have been working with Suzanne and have been pretty much producing all of her films since then. And so it's pretty much led me into learning, different aspects of the entertainment industry. And so with that, she has been a wonderful mentor, especially considering she's been in the industry for well over 30 years. And so, she really took me under her wing and really taught me kind of the do's and don'ts of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So we all know that the entertainment world can be pretty cutthroat.
Very much.
And that there's probably only a handful of people that really control the whole industry. So how have you and Suzanne and her company, how have you been able to maintain your integrity over the years, given the pressure of the Hollywood environment and the entertainment industry? How have you been able to do that?
Yeah, I think, it's all about, making sure you're partnering up with the right people. Like you had said, the entertainment industry can be very cutthroat. So making sure that you're engaging with people who have integrity, people who are very forthright and honest, I think is very important. And that I think is something over the years, both Suzanne and I have really focused on, is making sure that our clientele and our investors that we deal with, all have integrity. Unfortunately, we've had, people who have, presented projects to us and also a great deal of money. But, again, it really depends on who you want to involve yourself with and what kind of reputation you want out of that.
Yeah.
And so with myself, I'm always one who wants to be part of an incredible team, but also a team that leads with great integrity. And so that's something I was able to find in Suzanne and her team because of the fact they do just that.
And so what's kind of been your litmus test or your, filter to be able to, I don't want to say judge, but judge the integrity of investors or other producers that want your films. What kind of rigor do you go through to be able to know that about them ahead of time so that you don't get deep into a project and then
we do quite a bit of research. So before we even take on a project, we do a great deal of research on who's investing in the project. What is the project about? What is the outcome? What are you looking to do with this project? And again, it's something that we have to decide for ourselves around if this is something we want to put our names behind. I want to be able to, be proud of what I'm putting out there. I don't want to have to be embarrassed or have to have my family leave the room whenever, we're playing something I, produced. I want to be able to, share that with everyone that I love. And so that's, a big part of it is making sure that, we do a lot of research, making sure that we engage. It's almost like almost dating, some of our investors and some of the people that, we're looking to, partner up with, and so once we build that relationship and once we kind of identify that, yes, this is the type of person that we do want to continue business with, we'll move forward. And we oftentimes will move forward very fast if we see this as a right partnership.
Yeah. Oh, that's refreshing because so many of just the commercials nowadays, you just want to, there's like, is there anything sacred anymore? The things that, that are allowed to, be in, entertainment media.
There's no limits.
Yeah. It's, I remember, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, there were some boundaries around what could go on the screen. And now it just seems like it's a free for all.
Yeah. And that's, I think, part of, a big reason why I, really started getting involved, in the industry, because I want to start producing, films that I want to see for myself, films that I think my family would want to see. And again, things that I want to be proud of producing, things that have purpose behind it.
Yeah. What can you give us an example of a situation where you really had to you were faced with a situation where you had to, let's say, exercise your integrity, and make a decision, to pivot, or to prevent or avoid, can you give us an example of where you were really faced with that and how you navigated through that and held on to your integrity?
Oh, absolutely. So, every project that we take on, naturally, we have to hire up a crew. And again, having a team that you're surrounded with who has a great deal of integrity and who knows and understands the responsibility that they carry is very important. And so, a few times I've been put in a position to have to fire crew members, and, I have to take a step back and really look at, the morale factor, because when I have someone coming in late every day, what does that look like to the rest of the crew? Everyone thinks, well, if that person's, able to come in late every day, then, how are we going to get things done? Or am I able to go ahead and do that? And so with that, I have to really hold people accountable. And sometimes that's the biggest challenge. And having that difficult conversation, which doesn't feel good at times, is sometimes, I think, the biggest challenge. But having that conversation and making sure people understand that we're all accountable, especially working in the entertainment industry, you have very diverse personalities that you're working with. And so some people are very gracious to work with, whereas some are very difficult. And so there have been times where I've encountered those very difficult personalities. And that's where, again, you have to be very forthright and letting people understand, how they're impacting either you or others around them. And so, having those difficult conversations sometimes, comes with the territory. And that's where I just feel that, being very honest with people, and letting them know how you're impacting, others around you and how it's impacting, really the whole production, sometimes are really important conversations you have to have in order to get something done.
Yeah. So it really sounds like working with the right team, choosing the right team, and sifting through, who's a good fit and who's not. I always tell people, don't find a job, find a boss.
Amen.
And you just, ride that wave as long as you can. And then, of course, if that person leaves, you are still trying to find, a good boss because it just has, the most influence. But so what? It sounds like you have a mentor, and I'm sure you're a mentor yourself to many people. So, what advice would you have to somebody, looking into the camera? What advice would you have for a leader out there that's really trying to navigate through? I want to say business. All the concepts are transferable between all these areas, but in the entertainment business, what advice would you have for them starting out, or let's just say they're in the middle of a difficult situation right now? What advice would you have for them in terms of when is it the right time to just stay and hang in there, and then when is it time to just move on?
Yeah, and that's where you really have to look within and look at never compromising your values. That's one of the things that was always important to me, is making sure that I never compromised my values. As I had mentioned, integrity is something that's very big to me. And so anytime I was broached with something that compromised my values or my integrity, I knew instantaneously to take a step back. I always learned to trust my gut instinct, and always knew that when something didn't feel right, it probably is not right.
Yeah.
And so that really was a big factor for me that kind of led me through the decisions I've made through navigating this industry.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone who is in a situation where they could say, well, there's a lot at stake here, and they've worked their way up through a system to a certain point, and they're tempted to, I don't want to say sell their soul, but sell their soul, or to continue on there, or leave. And so there's a tipping point for that. What advice would you have for them, for those people in those situations where it's difficult because there's a lot at stake and they put a lot into it?
Well, that is a tough question, because especially when you're so vested into something, that's where, if it's something you can't just walk away from, that's where you have to stand your ground. You have to really, again, ground yourself in what you believe to be right, and really articulate that to whomever you're dealing with or working with, to make sure they understand too where you stand on things. And if they don't agree with that, then that's a battle you're going to have to take on. I've been, blessed to, have great support, but there have been times where I've had to pick and choose my battles, and I know what battles are most important to take on. And it's the ones that compromise your integrity and, again, your values.
Yeah. And do you have anything else that you would like to say in closing to the leaders out there that are, in difficult situations, or what advice would you have for them moving forward?
Yeah, so definitely, don't be discouraged. We all hit those peaks and valleys, and there always is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. But always, standing your ground, keeping your faith, making sure that you do the research in whatever it is you're doing, making sure you understand, what you're up against, what tools and resources you have available to hopefully help you succeed in whatever it is you decide to do. But also making sure you're pulling from the people around you who have those strengths, because every person has, their strengths and weaknesses. And that's one of the things I've always found, pulling from people who have those, strengths, or those qualities that I feel that will help me succeed in whatever it is I'm doing. Those are the people and the tools that I always pull from.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Leilani. We appreciate it. And that's it today for Wisdom for Work.
Thank you. Thanks.